And Penn State and Pitt, you put a rivalry game and maybe some bragging rights and a little stake, and that adds a little more flair to your regular season.
So I think Narduzzi's still stuck in his old tactics that may or may not have affected the previous regime. But I think it's going to get to a point where if he just keeps doing it, match is going to be, all right, let's play. You want to play in a parking lot? We'll play in a parking lot. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, let's just do it. So
obviously I'm a short player, but I'm an offensive player. I love to shoot puck, like you mentioned. I think I can say I'm a goal scorer. I love shooting the puck from everyone on the ice. Create some play. I think I have a pretty good hockey IQ too. So, but yeah, just my mentality for next year is just doing everything I can to help the team win.
There's a lot of different ways that you can move the football efficiently. And I think what guys look for most is somebody who can come in, call the play, know what they're doing, do their job, deliver the ball. It doesn't have to be like you have to make the play, you have to make a play. You have to make a play that advances the football. You don't have to always try to go and hit the home run and get everything rolling. And those are things that, like, having a guy who's played that many games and has had that many pass attempts in college football already, just attaching yourself to the hip and just being the annoying little brother that's following you around all the time.
All right, here we go. Another week of Statewide. Thanks for being with us. Brian Tripp, former Nittany Lion quarterback, Christian Hackenberg. Appreciate all of you who have tuned in every week. Make sure you are subscribing to the State Media channel to watch our show every week as football season gets closer and closer. And also, this week, the start of Penn State fall sports. Penn State women's soccer is going to be the first to kick it off on Sunday at number 2 Notre Dame. Erica Dombach and her team have been to 32 straight NCAA tournaments and at least the second round or better in 17 straight years. They kick off a new season of Penn State sports, which means we start to talk about more Penn State sports as well. Hack, it is hard to believe that we're already a week into fall camp, and now also all the other fall sports teams are going to kick off their schedule.
It is here. I like what you did there with soccer. I guess kickoff. Yeah, that's good.
It was unintentional.
Yeah, you're a pro. Everything's just so smooth and just buttery. Everything's unintentional, intentionally unintentional. But yeah, listen, man, it's like we've talked about. This countdown to the fall has been ridiculous. The summer's just gone by way too fast. But again, it is my favorite time of the year, so very, very excited to get the ball rolling. And I know the guys have been fired up to put the pads on and actually get to work after all this banter this spring and off season. So
I've been on the field and I've been in the training room. I know what it takes to get back stronger. And that's why I'm proud to tell you about PAM Health, the official rehabilitation partner of Penn State Athletics and Penn State football. For more than 20 years, PAM Health has helped people recover from injuries, illness, and surgery with focused physical, occupational, and speech therapy so they can reach their full potential. And in June, PAM Health is opening a new state-of-the-art rehabilitation center near Penn State in the Harrisburg area, serving patients from across the region with excellent care close to home. Whether you're rehabbing from a tough play, a medical setback, or getting back to everyday life, PAM Health is there with you every step of the way. Make sure you guys visit pamhealth.com to learn more.
We will talk about women's soccer coming up at the end. You mentioned it, football. We'll talk a lot about camp. Also have the first coaches poll of the year. Does it really matter? Also, perhaps another change to the college football playoff expansion format. What is the latest in that discussion? And our guest this week from the Penn State men's hockey team, Justin Poirier, one of the new incoming players. He'll be a sophomore this year after having an outstanding freshman season at Maine. He was the Black Bears' leading scorer before his season was cut short. So we'll hear from him in just a little bit. But we talked about it last time. Camp is here. We're now more than a week into the start of fall camp. Media Day happened over the weekend. Some of the biggest takeaways that I had from that first week that I want to get into. Number one, Caleb Bacon practicing at edge. We talked about that edge position last week, and now they're just trying to add a position of depth linebacker. And we've seen some players make that transition from kind of that outside linebacker or off-ball linebacker position to play more of an edge or a stand-up position, especially in a defense that might not be as positional traditionally as you typically would see.
Yeah, interesting call out from you last week, talking about the defensive line, specifically the edge rusher guys, and the timing of that. It's pretty good as well. But when you look at it, it's funny that we're talking about moving a linebacker now. Like, we have too much depth at linebacker, especially after last season's woes. But good for Caleb. I think it's going to be really unique to see how, as the rest of those guys get healthy, and what that picture truly looks like. I think this potentially could be more about reps for what this defense might look like week 3, 4, 5, once all the pieces, and I'm probably specifically talking about Alex Tash, are back in the mix. But it's always a good time to get those types of reps at camp. And I think that this could potentially be something that really shows what it's going to look like about the halfway point throughout the season. And
I probably I'm not sure if I misspoke, but probably didn't give enough credit to Ike Easy Agu, made sure I got the pronunciation right this week, who's, I think, going to be a mainstay at one of the defensive end spots. I know we talked a lot about Kamaju and Max Granville, but it does feel like there is still that kind of quest to find what the depth is there. And we talked about a defense that's going to maximize its talent. And, people always talk about, where are you going to run a 5-2? You're going to run a 4-3. You're going to run a 3-4. In traditional football, yeah, sure, you may talk about positional situations and where you're going to go and what your scheme and what you're going to run with your structure primarily on defense. But I think in this defense hack, there's a little bit more gray area for what they want to do so they can maximize the players and talent that they have.
I mean, mix match personnel with different structures is always fun. Todd Bowles was famous for that. When I got to the league, when he was with the Jets, that was always really, really frustrating, especially for a young quarterback, when you got guys who are wearing certain numbers that align with certain positions, but the structure is really something else. It can be really confusing. And if you have the personnel to do it, definitely pays dividends. And just from, even pre-snap, like winning pre-snap, right? You got a quarterback that's like, wait, that's a 47, and that's like you just kind of, it throws you out of whack. I'm just speaking from experience. So it's really cool to see this defense approaching it from that position too, right? It's like, we know what we have, and what this is going to look like is still kind of up for debate, but like, we're not going to try to force it to look like something that it may not be built to look like, which hat off. When you're a coach, man, you're not gonna make it very long trying to stuff square pegs into round holes, right? You got to build it around what your players do best. And if you can create any type of advantages from a scheme standpoint, you got to be able to do that. So,
well, here's what Matt Campbell said to the media at Local Media Day over the weekend. He said he's a smart football player, and this is of Caleb Bacon. He's a smart football player. We felt like we gave him so many reps in the spring at linebacker, we'd be missing the boat not to start him off in fall camp on the edge. I think Bacon is one of those multiplicity pieces. So that's what we're talking about. And because he is a veteran guy, you can cross-train him at other positions. And I think they recognize, and it is hard to believe, I think you made a great call out there, that the linebacker position, because of really the players that have come over from Iowa State and Alex Tash getting back to full health and Tony Rojas looking really good to start camp back to full health. He did a great interview earlier this week with the Big Ten Network when they came out for their annual camp day and was just talking about where he's at after his recovery from injury. I think they're set there in the linebacker group. And I know we talked about probably the back 4, back 5, if you count the nickel back position as an area of strength. I think it's anywhere behind that defensive line. They should feel really good about their back 7, let's call it, and what they have in this defense. And I really applaud them for trying to be flexible and creative with ways to fill Not that I think they're going to be bad on the defensive line, but you're looking at who's that standout player going to be. And they're trying to just take their best pieces and get them on the field in any way they can. And I think Matt Campbell talking about that and the media getting to see it for the first time and us getting to see it for the first time or the first couple of weeks of camp, first couple of days of camp, gives you a little bit more clarity of what they feel like they need to address here in the fall. And we talked about it last week, that defensive end position. Who's it going to be besides the number one guys that you can have because you know you need 2 and 3 deep at that spot?
Need a rotation. And I think like the way to put a pin on this is there's plenty of toys on the defensive side of the ball. There's plenty of pieces. I think the clarity of what that picture is going to ultimately look like is still a little fuzzy. But it's not like it's a bad picture. It's a really, really good picture. Just needs some editing and some grain and some reps. So I think these guys are headed down that path, obviously, clearly. So.
Yeah, and the other thing you notice right away, to put a bow on it on that side, is just the size on the defensive front. And I know standing on the side, and we've talked about it, but standing on the sideline last year, I would turn to you, I'd turn to whoever's next to me, I go, man, especially when you lined up against Indiana, I thought that's where I saw it most when they played Ohio State and Indiana. And you look at the size of their guards and tackles, and then you see Penn State on the defensive line and just how small they were at the tackle positions and defensive end. This is a bulkier group. It's a bigger group. And some of the names that we've already talked about, it's not just the D tackles and the oversized guys that they bring in. Some of the guys we've talked about at D end have made a conscious effort to maybe get their playing weight up 10 to 15 pounds from where you would expect it to be going into this season. And that's the other thing that stands out to me on the defensive side. A couple of things that have stood out on the offensive side. I know you and I are looking forward to getting out at practice, and this is from people we've talked to, reports that we've read, being tapped into what's going on inside the Lash building and over at Haluba Hall for practices when they've been indoors, outdoors, whatever it's been. Alex Manske, I know you highlighted him last week, which was, again, an impressive call out, but he's been impressing as what everyone expects to be quarterback too, and the value that he brings to the offense to have that guy. And not only for this year, but as we talked about last time, what he could mean for the future. So really encouraging to see him back out there after the situation he went through in the spring, but not only to be back out there, I think to be catching the attention of his coaching staff and peers.
Big development opportunity for him. I told you guys how I felt about him last week. I'm not going to continue to hammer home that bell. I'm sure I'm going to have plenty of time to do that, but great opportunity for him to get reps and just position himself, right? You never know what's going to happen. You don't want to get ready. You got to stay ready. And I think for him, this is his first step in getting those reps, especially with missing spring. But doing just about what I expected him to do. He's a really, really good football player, has a great mental makeup, which is half the battle at that position as well. And I'm very excited to see him get his opportunities. And he might get some chances early in the year too, just to get his feet wet and get a feeling for what it's like to play in that stadium with some of these opponents. I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis, but I think he'll be able to take some of this momentum into the season, at least the early part of the season. And he's just got to keep it up.
Challenging question to ask you because you were thrown right into the fire, but you came in a very different situation. But What is the value of a young quarterback having a guy like Rocco Becht and the influence he can have on Alex versus the value of maybe a quarterback just being thrown right into the fire? So what have you learned from the game of getting him in a system and having Rocco at the helm for a year or two here in front of Alex to help him get ready?
Yeah, I think it's hard because I almost have to it's like working inversely in my experience in college there. But I guess looking back at it, like what I wish I would have had, just operational control. There's like an element of owning an offense, and specifically in college, there's a lot of different ways that you can move the football efficiently. And I think what guys look for most is somebody who can come in, call the play, know what they're doing, do their job, deliver the ball. It doesn't have to be like you have to make the play or you have to make a play. You have to make a play that advances the football. You don't have to always try to go and hit the home run and get everything rolling. And those are things that that was part of getting thrown in the fire. That was awesome is I learned how to do that, like when it mattered. So I didn't have those chances to be like I had to do it when it mattered. But I think being able to really get a good feel for that and gain the respect of your teammates, I had to do it with the season kind of pushing down on everybody within that roster. So it was a much more fast track process as opposed to being able to do it organically. And then to your point, when you have a guy like Rocco sitting there, just asking questions, like it's very cliche, but the one-on-one interactions and how he carries himself on a day-to-day basis, how he prepares, I kind of had to figure all that out and do it all by myself. Having a guy who's played that many games and has had that many pass attempts in college football already, just attaching yourself to the hip and just being the annoying little brother that's following you around all the time.
When you have a lot of veteran guys like this offense, I think maybe to the surprise of some, and it'll be interesting. I think this is always, we can talk and we'll get our eyes on it and kind of get a feel for where the group is and what talent they have. But until you really see it in Big Ten action, I think there's still going to be that hovering question somewhere in the background. But when you have a veteran group, I think there should be no surprise that Rocco Becht has looked good. Carson Hansen has looked good. Brett Eskildsen has played a lot of football. Chase Sowell has played a lot of football. Rapp has played a lot of football, right? Bramer's played a lot of football. That there's reports going to be, hey, this is encouraging about what you've seen on the offensive side. But one of the younger players that they really are going to count on in a big way that's going to be thrust into a major role at left tackle, and reports have been really encouraging on so far, is Malachi Goodman. I think that's a spot certainly to watch throughout this fall. And as you get into the early season, Penn State, they may have some veteran guys, but this is potentially the highest ceiling player of any on the offensive side, but might be the greatest unknown because he is so young compared to some of the other guys that are kind of known quantities for this team.
Yeah, and I think that offensive line too is going to be cool to see how that all shakes out. But it is a great opportunity for a young cat like that with the veteran guys around you, right? I think you're going to be able to get help. You're not really going to be worried about having to fill other holes within that offensive line, right? Where if you have a young cat, you might have a really bad matchup that week where someone who's played a lot of football that's also a really talented player on the other side, you give them some help with the back or whatever it is through your scheme and protection. It's a lot easier to handhold him through his development as opposed to getting thrown into the fire and having to go and win one-on-one battles all the time against grown men. That's really, really hard for 65 snaps a game. It's just tough. But you get him some confidence, get him rolling, protect him a little bit with the scheme, and he'll develop. And I think the rest of that offensive line, physicality is not going to be an issue.
Yep.
So or at least I'll bet my house on that. I don't think physicality or mentality is going to be an issue. So I'm really excited to see how that comes to fruition week one.
And because we're only 1 week through camp, some of these storylines get to be a little bit repetitive. There's yet to be maybe that unsung hero or the guy that's had enough opportunities with the pads on to elevate himself. And I'm sure we'll learn about that over the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks. So that's week one of camp. That's our summary. But one of the things that I know I look forward to, and almost every college football fan looks forward to this time of year, is Bruce Feldman's annual Freaks list. He puts it on The Athletic. Penn State well represented this year. 3 players, Tony Rojas, Brett Eskildsen, and Audavion Collins. Before we get into what Feldman had to say about the 3 of those Nittany Lions, I found it interesting, though, that as you wait in anticipation for this list, it didn't come out until the second week of August. And you know why? A non-Power 4 coach that Feldman had great respect for and was very successful said, hey, and this was, a year or 2 ago, hey, can you wait to put the list out until later? That way the Power 4 juggernaut schools aren't coming and poaching my player after you write about what a freak he is. It just shows you what a sign of the times it is. Maybe it's a sad state of college football, but Tony Rojas was ranked 25th. Brett Eskildsen was ranked 35th, and Audavion Collins was ranked 91st. Here's what he said about Tony Rojas, a 4.37 40 last offseason. He ran 22.5 miles per hour on the GPS. This year, coming off a significant injury, he improved his bench to 385, jumped 36 inches, and these are the ones that stand out to me even more considering the knee. Jumped 36 inches and ran over 22 miles per hour still at 240 pounds.
He definitely put on some muscle. Tony looks really, really good. Fortunately, I think benefiting from those knee injuries have become a little bit of an easier process. I'm not taking anything away from it, but advancements in modern medicine and technology, those things have become relatively rudimentary. Still, you have to put in the time and effort, and that's the hardest part. So a tip of the cap to Tony for how he attacked his rehab and is obviously reaping the benefits of having some man-made ligaments down there now and doing really, really well. So I am excited for Tony. He's been such a fun player to watch throughout his career as a young guy. And obviously, I've said this before, Virginia guy, stoked for him, hoping he continues that tradition of some good football players coming out of the 757 and or not the 757, just the DMV in general, but yeah, I'm really excited for him, and his physical attributes have never been an issue, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. I'm really excited to see how he operates as a true linebacker this year.
Yeah, really cool story too with his family and his mom raising him, and the challenges that she had to go through as a single mother and her health issues, and just a great family, a real inspiration. His sister went to Penn State as well. And he, when we talk about that defense, I think there's a lot of NFL talent on that defense, but he is one of very few guys that you look at and you go, okay, that's someone you really have to game plan against. And every team, every team needs a difference maker, and Tony is the difference maker on that defense, where he can be a game changer and a game wrecker, whether it's him dropping into coverage and picking a few balls up and picking them off. Maybe it's getting to the other side of the line of scrimmage and making a play in the run game. Maybe it's on a blitz and getting after the quarterback. But he is a guy that on that defense, the defense I think is going to be really good, but you need a game changer. And each team has 1, 2, 3 guys, maybe you circle. Tony is the guy you circle first if you're an offensive coordinator or a head coach scouting against Penn State.
No doubt.
Brett Eskildsen, number 35 on the list. Now, at local media day, his fastest time, according to the GPS, was 23.5 miles per hour. Bruce Feldman had him at a 40-inch vertical, 11-foot broad jump, a 325-pound bench, and they had him at 23.1 miles per hour on the GPS. He's the fastest player on the team. We talked about last week his ability to be a big play threat. He is a very, very impressive athlete at 6'1", and he can be a difference maker and maybe catch some people by surprise.
Someone's got to step up in the room, man. I think he might be the guy. I think he might be, if not a guy, he might be, or not the guy, a guy at least who does it. Sorry, gosh, I'm all backwards today.
What is it? Bass backwards? Is that what they say?
Bass backwards. Correct.
It's a Tuesday. It's like the dog days of summer. I felt like I was fighting it a little at the beginning today too.
Gosh, just the English language and head trauma. Bad combination, dude. Head trauma and English language, not good.
I should be clicking today. The AC's back. I'm even able to wear a hoodie inside.
I thought you were trying to sweat it out. I didn't get the update on that.
Yeah, I know our audience. It was like a long-awaited saga. They were just curious to know if I was still suffering through heat and humidity at night. But it is a difference maker, and it does require a second snooze to get out of bed now again.
That a boy. The weighted blankets back?
The weighted blankets, no. They'll come probably September once you get some of those cooler nights. No weighted blankets yet.
Okay, all right.
Audavion Collins, number 91 on the list, 23.1, second fastest on the team. And they were identified by Matt Campbell and the rest of the staff at Local Media Day about being the two fastest. But 23.1 miles per hour on the GPS, a 10.6 broad jump, 38-inch vertical, and a 3.05 bench. AJ Harris transfers within the Big Ten. Thought Audavion Collins and AJ Harris had a chance to both turn pro. Collins ends up coming back as well in that cornerback room. And I think he's one of the veteran guys with Zion Tracy, then the young standout Darius Dixon. I don't think the country got to see how good Audavion Collins truly is because of the season Penn State had last year. They were very impressive on the outside. And the only game where I felt like they really struggled in the secondary was at Ohio State, but I thought that was a scheme thing and not a one-on-one where there were breakdowns and confusion between, do they have help over the top? I thought the secondary was really good last year, where they were put in some tough spots a lot of times.
That's what I was going to get at is when you have the year that we had some injuries, a lot of wear and tear on the defensive front. Our secondary was making a lot of plays, and they had a lot weighing on how their coverage held up for a lot longer than it probably needed to or should have been. So just as it pertains to tackles and total tackles on the team and so forth and so on, like a lot of pressure on that whole group. So it is really hard when you are that last line of defense, and oftentimes it came down to that last line of defense. More so than one would have liked. So that's a great call out, and I am excited for that whole group. There's a ton of talent. Terry's done a great job. We've talked about that ad nauseum for the past 3 years on all the things that we've done together, Tripp. But I think he's obviously a guy that I think is going to have a really good opportunity to showcase what he really is about, like you mentioned. I think there's a lot there. He's a high ceiling football player.
All right, a couple more news and notes here on football before we get to our interview with Justin Poirier from men's hockey. Coaches poll, Penn State 17th, 3 of the top 6 of the Big Ten, Ohio State 1, Oregon 2, Georgia 3, Texas 4, Notre Dame 5, Indiana 6. All 6 of those schools receiving first place votes. Does it matter? I'll answer my own question. No, but in a portal era, I'll add this. Because there are so many unknowns with rosters, because there are so many changes, because you have a college football playoff ranking that doesn't come out until the first week of November, but I think still is heavily influenced by AP polls and coaches polls. I'd like to see all polls go away until the playoff rankings are released. Penn State 17th, Michigan 16th, USC 14th. Yeah. Kind of in that pack where we expected them to be. Doesn't matter. Don't really care. But that's where it's at. But my one concern with polls is still that you come into the season with these preconceived notions and you rank the teams. And then I do think that has some weight and influence as the season continues.
Where did Indiana start last year?
Man, that is I would say probably around 10 to 12. Let's look. Can you, Phil, while I look this up?
Yeah. I think that's an interesting study, right? Like, where did Indiana? That's a point proven.
Number 20.
Yeah. So there you go. Would have barely been on this list. Right where the SMU Mustangs are, dude.
Yeah.
So it's a great point, and I actually like the non-ranking discussion that you had, or the point that you brought up. And I saw some stuff Josh paid today. I was scrolling through X earlier this morning, talking just about how I think as fans we go championship or bust. Then like 98% of the teams just shouldn't play. Like it's just like 98% of the teams just shouldn't play football anymore if that's what you're going to hold them to. Again,
which is why I do like an expanded playoff. I don't know if I want to get to 20 or 24 teams like we're going to talk about in a minute. But I do like an expanded playoff because it does keep football relevant for most fan bases into mid to late October. And then for probably 25 to 30 into November still.
Yeah, I would almost say like, and this is a whole nother discussion, but like the championship games are really tough to justify any longer with how it's structured, right? Like it's an extra game that you have to play and you might be already shoehorned into the playoffs. So like, Am I going
All
to
right.
risk my
I'm going to
best guy?
stop you right there. Let me introduce it then real quick.
Yeah, just do it.
Heather Dinich reported earlier this week that the next edition, perhaps, of the college football playoff, which they have to decide by December 1st to decide if the field would expand for 2027. We know Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, has been pushing for a 24-team model. He's championed that. Seems like the Big Ten and SEC coaches and administrators are also leaning that direction. I don't know that there's any fans out there clamoring for that, but a 20-team playoff format with 4 play-in games that would eliminate the conference championship weekend. That's kind of this new potential model that's been thrown out there. And I'm okay with that, I think. I don't want it. I don't desire it. I don't think we need it. But I think because of what we saw, particularly in the ACC last year with their conference championship game and the fiasco with Duke, and if you're going to give automatic qualifiers out, I think a nice compromise could be this 20 with a play-in weekend. Not that anyone's necessarily clamoring for it, but as fans, that might be a little more palatable.
Yeah, I think you have to figure out a way how to potentially give yourself like a regular season conference champion, like based upon performance, and maybe that's your like 1 seed, however you want to work that, or like buy from your representation, and then
But if we do this, let me add this. But if we do this, and I think when we go to what is inevitably going to be a 16, 20, 24 team model, we've already, I think with 12, where it currently sits, we have still great value and emphasis placed on every regular season game. And let's go back 2 years ago, just so it's more relatable for Penn State fans. When they're making their playoff push, the Ohio State at Oregon game in Eugene that came down to the wire, and the Penn State-Ohio State game here that Penn State dropped, the games still felt like they had real meaning. I think when you expand to 16, 20, especially 24, that's going to start rendering the regular season meaningless. I think at 16, you probably can preserve that. But the other thing that's still preserved, and you saw it with Penn State and the rooting interest in which Penn State fans had in the game between Ohio State and Michigan at the end of the year, was then you still had a conference championship. And winning a conference or playing within a conference still meant something. If you go to play-in games at 20 or you go to 24 teams, why bother having conferences at that point?
Well,
that to me, that becomes
that's why
basketball.
But that's why I brought up what I brought up, though, is have your conference champion, and then if there's a record tie or whatever, have your point differential or whatever.
Which there always is. I think there's always going to be record ties now, because look at Penn State's schedule this year. You don't play.
No doubt.
And look, it's cyclical, but you don't play Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State, who are the 3 favorites for the league. Now, they may beat each other, but we, in theory, could get to the end. And this is not a bold prediction I'm trying to make, but a hypothetical. If we get to the end of the year and Penn State's sitting there at 9-0 in the Big Ten, it is certainly not inconceivable that one of those other teams could also be sitting there at 9-0 in the Big Ten. And you're just going to tell me point differential determines it. To me, that's where with the schedule, because there's so many teams and you don't play everyone, just determining a regular season champ, that's why we still have the conference championship game. And I think winning a conference championship should still mean something. It still means something, I think, to a lot of fan bases out there. 2016, a perfect example for Penn State fans, because to go back to where this conversation started, if you start to eliminate conference championship games, well, then it really is national title or bust for a lot of fan bases.
Yeah, listen.
Like, are you going to hang a banner, made it to the second round of the playoffs, made it to the college football playoff semi? So it's either playoff or bust, championship or bust. I think in other sports you see this, like Purdue basketball. Yeah, they've never won a national championship. But think of all the great teams that they can celebrate because they've won a Big Ten championship, regular season or tournament. And I think you start to lose that in college football if you get rid of the conference championship game. I've seen it firsthand the last few years in college hockey. Michigan State has been the juggernaut of the Big Ten, winning the conference tournament postseason, and then also the regular season title. And to me, that's still a major accomplishment where it shouldn't take away from what's been one of the best teams in the country just because they didn't make the Frozen Four. And I think you can see that in college baseball. Like, just because you didn't make the College World Series doesn't mean you had a bad season. I think as fans, we need to, and you start to appreciate these teams because, look, the 05 Penn State team, the 2016 Penn State team, the 94 Penn State undefeated team, which didn't win a national championship, they're still celebrated, and you still have 10, 15, 30, 40-year reunions for teams that don't win national championships. Yeah. I think as fans, we start to appreciate it more over time as to how proud you should be of that accomplishment. But we have, to your point, in society and in sport today, a lot of fan bases, particularly of your blue blood programs who are contending for championships. And you could probably throw 15 teams in that bucket to start the year this year. We've become so numb to this boom or bust, title or not, that you kind of lose an appreciation for how hard it was 2 years ago for Penn State to, and I get it with the playoff and who they play, but still, they were in the Final Four. That's a pretty significant accomplishment. They're in the big, now you'd like to see them win that Big Ten championship game, win that semi. Like, that's what that era, not to go down that road, but that's what that era was missing, right? Yeah. But I think we've become so numb to what are significant accomplishments because you get so jaded as a fan base and as sports fans that it is championship or bust. I mean, right now, how much would the Cleveland Browns love to just be an AFC champion and make a Super Bowl? I almost brought up a different organization, but I thought better. Good. I caught myself. But I think that's a problem in sports in general right now.
Yeah, and all those points are.
I'll get off my pedestal.
No.
That was unplanned, but that I see that all the time, and it's frustrating and disappointing, particularly in college sports. And I think because of the nature of college sports today, and look, Indiana winning a football national championship might impact it and hurt that perspective even more. Yeah. And then you have the Signetti and the comments from the Purdue, the new hire at Purdue as the athletic director. There's just so many examples of it.
I think it's interesting. Like, I guess what I was getting at is I think like everything you said, I agree with in terms of like, my thing is you need to incentivize regular season competitiveness in some way, shape, or form, while also understanding that unlike all those other sports that you mentioned, like football is unique in the sense that there is a cap on what you can do, how many games you can play, how much time between games. Like, there's a calendar gap. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it. So like, whatever the solution is, you need to incentivize competitive regular season play to the extent that you can, create those opportunities to have signature moments, wins, accomplishments without it being the national championship. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, ensure that the quality of the playoff is very, very high and competitive. Because at that point, there's always going to be the argument. If there's blowouts here, blowouts there, there's enough good college football teams where that field should be extremely competitive from start to finish. If you can accomplish that, awesome. My thing is it needs to, the way it's been, at least from my perspective, is like, if I know I'm a playoff team, why would I want to play in a championship game with the opportunity to go do that, with risking everything that goes into the physicality of the sport? If I'm already going to make it, it's kind of hard. Like, it's like, yeah, we could go win this, but if I lose my starting quarterback, then I cut off my tail in pursuit of something that ultimately isn't what the goal was at the beginning of the year, which every team's goal is to go win a national championship. Like, to your point, that's just kind of ingrained in you. So you have to incentivize it in some way, shape, or form, in my opinion. And there's buys and probably a bunch of other stuff you could go into, but there needs to be incentivization in those 3 points.
Well, another way that you could incentivize and raise the stakes in your regular season is to play a rivalry game. Whoever wins the Alabama-Auburn game has bragging rights in the Iron Bowl. Whoever wins the game between Ohio State and Michigan, regardless of record, has bragging rights. And some view that, I mean, we heard the discussion when Ohio State won the national championship a couple of years ago, that, hey, it doesn't matter that we won the national championship. We lost to that team up north. Well, Pat Narduzzi, and as you would hear this time of year, you need to fill time. I mean, how many topics have we rehashed over the last couple of weeks? But he brought it up again, confirming that talks between Pitt and Penn State about a renewal of the rivalry. He said, from what I hear from a little birdie, there's been conversations about getting that game back on. He said to 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh. And that's kind of where the conversation just started to heat back up. So he's stoking the coals in the fire. And Penn State and Pitt, you put a rivalry game and maybe some bragging rights and a little stake, and that adds a little more flair to your regular season. I think Matt Campbell, with his roots in Eastern Ohio and Western Pennsylvania, he understands what this game meant to a lot of people for a long time. It is a never-ending debate among these two fan bases, especially when you're the team that's kind of been the team to beat in the rivalry for a really long time. I think this conversation is probably going to continue. And
I hope it does.
Some merit to it.
I hope it does. And I think you bringing up Matt Campbell, and not to dig in, I just think it's a very different mentality across the line here. In a lot of ways, I think Narduzzi's still stuck in his old tactics that may or may not have affected the previous regime. But I think it's going to get to a point where if he just keeps doing it, Matt's just going to be, all right, let's play. You want to play in a parking lot? We'll play in a parking lot. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, let's just do it. So, I think it's good. But as you said, like, the banter back and forth is fantastic. I love it. It's what it's supposed to be about. And let's raise the stakes. Let's play competitive schedules. My thing is if you're going to play a football game in today's day and age, it needs to be maximum reward for everybody. And just being completely frank, like playing the, school of, I can't even say what I was about to say, but like playing some Northwest Technical Institute school or something like that, just to
at least the wires were working that time.
Yeah, it caught me. The old. Anyway, they stopped working pretty quickly there. But playing some like directional institute of health and technology just to fill a schedule and pay them a couple $1 million to come up and take a thrashing and then head home. Like, to me, you need to de-incentivize that as well as college football regulation. That needs to be like not what you should do.
Well, I think we could debate this for hours. Maybe days, maybe episodes. This is one that you just stick at the bottom of your prep sheet, and when you need a topic, you can always go back to it. Should we bury the hatchet and save this one for another day?
Yeah, hatchet's buried. I'm sure there's going to be another topic that comes up throughout the year. It always does. Just like you said, this one's like the one that just lingers. It's just there. It's always there.
Well, if you tuned in specifically to hear hockey and to hear us talk to Justin Poirier, you probably have scrolled ahead to this point of what is now nearly a 40-minute discussion that we said. I'm going to tip off the audience here. Knowing we had an interview this week, we said we could kind of keep our banter short and just get to the interview, just dive into a couple of topics and run through them really fast. Probably should have been aware that wasn't going to happen. But on the hockey side, I think, and look, these are blue and white colored glasses, and I'm biased, but I think Penn State, where last year they were the team getting a lot of attention for their offseason moves, and rightfully so, Gavin McKenna, Jackson Smith being the first player in program history to be a first-round NHL pick, who we're going to talk to next week, going 14th overall to the Blue Jackets. The hype of the Frozen Four, many of those key players returning. This year, I think, while they may not have gotten some of the names that get the big notable attention, they've put together a really, really solid roster, and they can be healthier. They'll be deeper up the middle, and they've certainly needed to fill some gaps and get a few finishers who can put the puck in the back of the net. Well, that is truly what Justin Poirier is, the transfer from Maine, who will play a sophomore season at Penn State. I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. And he is a typical French Canadian. You can hear it in the voice. But I really enjoyed getting to know Justin and can't wait to see him on the ice this season. This week here on Statewide, we're joined by one of the newest members of the Penn State men's hockey team, Justin Poirier, who joins the Penn State hockey program this fall. Justin, really appreciate the time. I know you're a few days away from getting to State College. What are you looking forward to most? Why Penn State? And what are you looking forward to once you get on campus?
Thanks for having me first. I'm pretty excited to be to joining Penn State for next season. For next year, just the reason why I move on, it's to join a team that can help me to play my own game. I want to help the team to win a championship. I heard a lot about Penn State. It's a really good organization. They're playing in the Big Ten division, so we're going to play against really good player, really good school. So for me, it's just focusing on my game. But I know with all the good comments that I heard about Penn State, pretty excited to join all of my new teammates and all the coaching staff for the next season. Pretty pumped.
Well, I know you have a shot. That's a pretty darn good shot, and you like to shoot the puck. So it sounds like you'll be a great fit. Tell us a little bit about your game for fans who maybe haven't seen you or just have seen some of your highlights from playing in Major Junior in Canada and playing at Maine last season.
Yeah, so I think I'm a short player, but I'm an offensive player. I love to shoot puck, like you mentioned. I think I can say I'm a goal scorer. I love shooting the puck from everyone on the ice. Just shoot pucks, create some play. I think I have a pretty good hockey IQ too. So, but yeah, just my mentality for next year is just doing everything I can to help the team win, obviously, and then hopefully sign my first pro contract. But let's do it one step at a time. So now just focusing on, like you mentioned, I'm going in Penn State in like 5 days or 4 days. So just going step by step, just create some new friendship with all the boys, being ready to play. But yeah, just to go back in your question, I think I'm an offensive forward who loves shooting the pucks, good hockey IQ, and yeah, that's it.
Having seen the team since the beginning, I'll tell you, like shooting the puck and an offensive forward, you'll be a great fit. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
You mentioned getting to know some of the boys and get to learn about Penn State and some of your new teammates. Did you take a visit to Penn State? Did you get to meet anyone before you arrived here on campus? What was the process like of deciding where you wanted to continue your hockey journey?
First of all, when I decided to transfer from Maine, my first look was to go at school that I can play my own game, play an offensive game. And then when I reach out to Penn State or Penn State reach out to me, I went on a visit at last weekend of May, I think. And two of the boys was there. So I met some of the guys. I met all the coaching staff. It seems like a really good group of guys. So I was pretty excited, pretty pumped. And then I talked with my agent. I was really happy about that visit, about all the comment about Penn State and everything. So I made my decision to go at Penn State, and I'm really excited and really, really pumped to go there in a couple days.
Obviously, the style of play played a big part in your decision, the good visit that you had there in May that you just talked about, but also I'm sure seeing players like Gavin McKenna and going first overall to the Toronto Maple Leafs helps your decision as well. What was it like to follow Penn State, maybe just peripherally from the far, from like seeing it from a little bit of a distance and then getting the chance to see what they've been able to develop and the type of players they've been able to develop? Obviously McKenna, and there's others, but to get to the next level.
Yeah, obviously, when you saw that a program can bring players like Gavin McKenna, who just went first overall in the NHL, a player like Jackson Smith, who's first overall in the NHL, and players can play their own game and develop as a player and as a human, probably, it's really fun to see. And obviously, I know what's fun about Penn State is I know a lot of guys who were not drafted in the NHL after 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. They can find a AHL or a pro contract. So that's fun for a hockey player when you join a new program, but that you know that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you are drafted or not. You can have the opportunities to sign a pro contract. And I think for every hockey players, the main goal is to play pro one day, even if it's in NHL, AHL, Europe, or whatever. I think it's always fun to be in a program where the coaching staff can push your home limits, push yourself, and hopefully find a contract for you. So yeah, that's really fun that Penn State can do that too. So
You were drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes in 2024. What was that moment like for you to become a part of an NHL organization at that time?
obviously, like I just mentioned, to be drafted in the NHL was like a dream come true. It's always fun, but like I just mentioned, if you are drafted or not, I think to be drafted is really fun, but that's only the first step of the hockey journey. After that, you have to like focus on your game, sign your contract, and then after you sign, play a first pro game. So it's only the first step. It's always fun to get drafted, but now, like I mentioned, I just want to play my own game, focus on small details, be a better hockey player, and hopefully after next year or maybe in 2 years or 3 years, sign my first pro contract and start my pro career at some point with the Canes.
How did the transition to college hockey go for you, and why did you want to challenge yourself playing in the United States and playing college hockey versus continuing on, whether it's in the Quebec League, where I know you were, or other places in Canada?
Yeah, so I spent 3 years in Baie-Comeau in the QMJHL. I think I had three really good years. So I think the time was to move on in a better league. And back in 2024, after my draft, I was at the rookie camp, and I talked with some of the Canes coaching staff members, and they told me, like, do you ever thought about going in NCAA and college hockey, like playing against older, bigger guys? And to be honest, my answer was no, because I have a older brother who plays entire junior career in QMJHL and then went pro and everything. So I just want to follow his path. But after thinking, like, at 16, 17, like, I had a really good season. So I think the next step for me was to play against older and bigger guys to be ready to jump pro, like, faster. So after talking with my agent and do all the research that I wanted to do on my own, I think it was better for me to move on in NCAA, and I'm really happy about that decision. No regrets at all. Really happy about my last season in Maine. Maine was a really great college, really great town, great fans. But I think to move on to maybe the Big Ten school, like a better program, maybe it's the next step for me to be ready to jump pro as soon as possible.
What did you learn from that first year playing at Maine? I know your season was cut short due to injury, but what did you learn in that first season?
Oh, yeah, I learned a lot of things. First of all, in QMJHL, we have like 10 to 12 exhibition game, and last year in Maine, we only have one. So you don't have that much time to be like ready for season. And I remember after my first exhibition game with Maine last year, I was like, holy crap, did I make the right decision? Like, it's way too fast for me. The guys were way too big. I remember it was maybe since my junior career, like NCAA and junior, was probably my worst hockey game I never played. So I was like, did I make the right decision? Like, it's way too fast for me. And then I just like because thing that is really cool in college hockey, it's you have less exhibition game, but like I mentioned, I have to go in Penn State in 5 days, and the season doesn't start till mid-October or October 9 for us, I think, this year. So we have plenty of time left to be like just focus, practice, and everything. So I just like reset everything and said, like, if I made the jump in NCAAs, the reason was like I want to be a pro hockey player. And if I want to be a pro hockey player, I'm going to play against 30-something years old guys and bigger, stronger guys. So I have to stay here, have to focus on everything. And obviously, I did everything the right way. My first half of the season was really good. Like, not even numbers, but just I have fun. I learned a lot of things. I think now I'm like, the thing that I want to work on last year was like smaller game and my speed. And I think at the end of the year, and now I can say like I'm a better skater and I'm way better in small area games. So I was really happy about that. And like you mentioned, the season was cut short. I think I missed the last 8 or 9 games due to a lower body injuries. But like right now, everything should be all set for next season. So I'm really happy, and let's have a great season.
I was going to ask that next because, there's some Penn State fans out there watching wondering, hey, is he going to be ready to go? So that's good news for those Penn State fans that are watching that. One thing that I think is unique, too, about college hockey as well is, when you're playing in Canada, maybe it's 50, 60, 70 games that make up a regular season. What was it like transitioning to a team and a program and a league where you play 32, 34, 36 games and all of them matter? And really every night is like a postseason game because they all have significant implications on what the team's success is going to be when you get to March or hopefully April at the end of the year.
Yeah, obviously that's a huge difference because like you mentioned, I think it's different everywhere in like Canadian League, but where I was playing in QMJHL, I think it's 68 games. So we play a lot of games. Like you mentioned, if we were on the losing streak like 5 games in a row, it doesn't really matter. If like you play bad at one game, like doesn't really matter because you have like 67 games left of the season. But like you mentioned, in college hockey, every game is like a playoff game. Every game matters. The ranking is different. It's like a point system or whatever. Yeah. So every game matters. And after that, when you go in playoff, I don't know if it's the same thing everywhere in like every division, but last year in Maine was like a single game elimination. In QMJHL was like best of 7, like in the NHL or whatever. So that's a huge difference too. So yeah, no, but I think at the end of the day, it's kind of the same because yes, we play less game, but at the same time, we have more time to spend in the gym and everything, so we can gain some muscle and everything. And the game, like the pace of the game is way higher. So at the end of the day, from a player who's jumped from CHL to NCAA, it's an adjustment, but at the end of the day, it's pretty the same because more time in the gym, higher pace and everything. So, yeah.
Do you remember playing any games back in Canada against one of your new goalies, Josh Fleming, at Penn State?
Yeah, I remember he was playing in Bathurst Titans. I played against him in the playoff. I think it was my draft year actually, and then he moved on. And I remember playing against him in back in Quebec, like when I was 15 too. So, and it's really fun about knowing because obviously Josh is the only one I think who's gonna. He's from Montreal too. He's probably gonna speak French a little bit and everything. So obviously, I think you can tell my first language is not English. I try my best every time I talk, but obviously my first language is French, and I try to do my best in English. But just to have someone that if I really need anything or I want to talk to in French, it's always fun to have a teammate like that. But obviously, yes, I remember a lot of game against Josh when he was in the QMJHL, and great moments for me and for him.
Yeah, did you get the better of Josh or did he get the better of you?
I don't want to be a bad teammate, but I think I do against Josh. I think we swept him in the QMJHL playoff, and then we lost in final. But I think I do back in junior. Yeah.
Well, you're both great players, so it'd be nice to have you on the same team.
Yeah.
Who did you watch growing up? Who do you model your game after? Who are some of your favorite players? Are you a Canadiens guy? I'm guessing from Montreal. Who'd you watch growing up?
Obviously, for my favorite team growing up was obviously Montreal Canadiens. I'm leaving like 45 minutes away from the Bell Center, so growing up, I went to a lot of Canadian games at the Bell Center. And as a player, my favorite player, like my favorite player, I will say is probably Nathan McKinnon. But the player who I like to compare my game to is more like small player like Cole Caulfield, Alex Brinkett, small player. But I know it's kind of peaky to say like I compare myself to Cole Caulfield because this guy is already playing in the AHL. He already have a 50 goal on his belt. So I don't like to say compare my game with, but both of us short player that can shoot the puck, great offensive player. So I like to watch his game and like bring all the small details on his game to my own game more than say I compare my game to him. So yeah.
A very respectable, humble answer. And you could say one day you aspire to be Cole Caulfield. Yeah. Does the Bell Center have the best atmosphere, best environment in all of the National Hockey League? It's one of those places that's on my bucket list to get to and go see a game. What's it like going to a game there at the Bell Center? We saw it this year, certainly in the playoffs and some of the great crowds.
Yeah, no, obviously it's a really good spot. Every game it's almost sold out. It's like 21K, I think, every game. The fans are crazy in Montreal. It's a really nice ring too. I just went when they were playing against Carolina in playoff. I went to the game just to see like some of the Carolina members, staff, and just watch the game with one of my friends. And the atmosphere in playoff was crazy. Like during the national anthem, you can even hear the woman was singing and everything. So yeah, it's a really nice experience if you want to go. Yeah.
Well, I know you're going to get a chance to meet the Roar Zone student section at Penn State. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it and have seen some videos of it already. Maybe you can bring the Ole, Ole, Ole chant to Hockey Valley.
Yeah. Pretty excited about seeing the Roar Zone because I know the student section in Maine was very, very fun and crazy, but I heard that Penn State is another level, so I'm really excited to see because, like, for me right now, after my first year in college in Maine, like, for a student section, like, you cannot have better than Maine, but everyone tell me, like, the Roar Zone in Penn State is even better than Maine, so I'm really excited and pumped to see after, like, a goal or anything, after a win or whatever.
I think that's a good bar to set, and it's also a good challenge to send out to the Roar Zone. I think they're the best in college hockey, Justin. I think you're going to give them a lot to cheer about. Look forward to meeting you on campus. Really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your time, and thanks for having me again.
It's actually hard to believe we're less than 2 months away from the drop of the puck when Penn State visits UConn on the 9th of October. That they'll kick off their 2026-2027 season. Talked about it right at the top. Penn State fall sports begins, though, this weekend on Sunday. Penn State women's soccer at number 2 Notre Dame. Penn State was selected to finish 6th in their 18-team league this year. We got a case of the Tuesdays today when we're recording. Yeah. Selected to finish 6th in the 18-member Big Ten this year. Michigan State, UCLA, Washington, Wisconsin, and Ohio State selected ahead of Penn State. Really, the key for them this year, it starts with who they have in goal. Mackenzie Grass is back. She was awesome last year, starting all 21 matches. And anytime you got a really good goalkeeper, you know it's going to give you a chance. But this is a team that I think always rises to the occasion and is one of the best led teams on campus that probably doesn't get talked about enough for the sustained high level of success that Erica Dombach, formerly Erica Walsh, has brought to the women's soccer program.
Yeah, I think this program is one of those ones that has earned like all that stuff we talked about consistency, and where something we hit on with Gambino about how do you make this like a destination spot. This is a program that has quietly done that. I mean, like you said, going even back before I was there, it's just like, our women's soccer team's always really good. You know, like just as someone who didn't pay a ton of attention to it, it was just like, they're always good. So I think similarly with the preseason rankings here, like we'll see what happens. They have the benefit of the doubt with the history and the expectation that comes with that. And oftentimes you see those teams overperform their light projections throughout the year, but I don't want to jinx them too bad.
So let's get the cobwebs out for next week. Shake them off as we get closer to the regular season.
We'll be better. Yep. We'll definitely be better.
Get that 1% every day. Do you have any motivational signs up on? As you can tell, my walls are well decorated. Do you have any motivational signs up on the walls there in the home studio?
No. Maybe I should get one.
We got to get a big state media backdrop up here, and then whichever side it's on, we can get subscribe here, like an arrow pointing to whatever corner it is.
Figure it out.
That's the key. That's the key to this thing.
Maybe I'll get my kids to just do foam fingers.
Just make sure they're using the appropriate one. Yeah. All right. Good show.
Good stuff, Tripp. Fired up about next week.
All right. We'll talk to everyone next week. Thanks for watching another episode of Statewide here on State Media. Make sure you subscribe, tell your friends, share our show. For Christian Hackenberg, Brian Tripp, thank you so much for tuning in.